Is that Henry Brand? Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm here today with Blake over here. How's it going, Blake?
I'm doing well, thanks, Mitch.
That's good, and we're all excited back on the channel, as has been a little bit of a tradition when we've got a big new competition coming up. New cards, it is World Champion Henry Brand. How are we doing, Henry?
Very good, thanks, Mitch.
That is good. So we're going to run through what we think are going to be some of the best decks for OCIC. If you're heading to Melbourne next weekend, then these decks could be the decks for you. There's going to be some decks that you're probably expecting, and others that are a little bit of a surprise. I could see myself playing any of these 6, but it's unlikely that I'll play some of them. I'll put it out there right now. Let's get started. The first one that we're going to be playing, or taking a look at, is Obstagoon. Now, bear with me, alright? The first one, please bear with me. Obstagoon is the type of deck where if you get good matchups and you play against bad players day 1, then you can make day 2. That sounds pretty good.
It is appealing.
It certainly is. One of the big things for me with Obstagoon is that if you build the deck well enough, you can potentially give yourself matchups against the 3 big decks, PikaRom, MewMew, and ADP, and presuming that those decks aren't teching hard for Obstagoon, which I don't think they will, you can probably steal some matchups. The big problem with this, obviously, is if you play against anyone that isn't playing one of those 3 decks, you're probably going to be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, it's got pretty good matchups against the top tier decks, which is pretty intimidating. Being one of the top tier decks, knowing that there's something like really close to an auto loss if it's built well and is played by someone good, like floating around. So it's certainly one of the decks I'd be most terrified of if I was playing one of the other 3. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of janky decks that run around at these big tournaments by worse players that you don't necessarily want to feel like bad about losing to just because you picked Obstagoon and not something else.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Henry, I want to be shut down completely by you. Tell me why this is a terrible idea.
I reckon the deck sucks.
Yeah.
So it's a stage 2 deck that's playing Rare Candy and relies on it pretty heavily. And obviously, it's not built to actually draw into Rare Candy, at least not generally, unless I've seen it. Uses hard draw supporters to hit Rare Candy, which is never a good idea. And even then, right, if you set up, everyone can just tech for you and you lose.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, which is
that
terrible. And then like you have all these weird combos, like you have Evil Tile GX or Sable IP, and all of those require far too much setup and are easy to play around. Like I feel like it's definitely a deck that is strong against bad players, but that's never the type of deck I want to pick, especially when it's inconsistent itself.
Yeah.
The other thing as well, like even without text, it just does not beat Pikachu and Zacian, I don't think.
You don't think? Well, that's actually
They just
really
can't.
interesting. So I saw some, well, I didn't see some data. Jordan, who's obviously normally on the channel, did quite a lot of testing of this list specifically and played against PikaRom 10 games against James Goring, who's a very strong player in South Australia, and managed to win 8 out of 10, and James was specifically teching against it. So he didn't play like Electros or anything, which is obviously another tech that you could use to win, but depending on your list and the quality of play, you could potentially sneak across the line. PikaRom maybe not being as auto-winny against Galarian Obstagoon as it might be considered, but, you know, hey, that's Jordan, and he's better than me.
The obvious tech in Fiona is pretty popular in a lot of decks right now at the moment because Lily's Polkadot has also risen up in popularity. So it's pretty common actually for these Obstagoon decks to be running 1 to 2 Stealthy Hood.
Even if they Hood,
shuts that down.
Pika can just play Labs, which I feel like a lot of people play 1 Labs. But the issue is that what Pika can do with the line of play, like, you don't rush into the Raichu because you can paralyze the Obstagoon. What you do is you let them just knock out a Pika. Like, what are they going to do? If you just take a couple prizes early with Pikachu, like, what are they realistically going to do? They have to knock it out. Right?
Yeah, eventually.
They have to take prizes at some point, and then you drop Raichu, you power it up, you stand them to 3 or 2 or however many cards. Then you paralyze them. What are they going to do? Like, they're going to hit their switch, that's fine, and then you paralyze them again, and then you're going to hit it again off a low, like, hand size, and it's just not realistic. Like, I mean,
it's completely
maybe I'm oversimplifying it. And the matchup won't work quite this well because I've only played a few games of it. And this is just theory, and maybe Obstagoon applies too much pressure to realistically have this happen. But I think this, combined with the fact that it's a stage 2 setup deck and can easily get run over by something as quick as Pika, or even anything like ADP Zacian or something if they don't setup, and the whole lone Obstagoon thing as well is a myth.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Because you can just get rid of it. It's easy.
Yeah, it doesn't happen because you can't afford to not bench and not risk getting dunked. But to debunk like a couple of those theories, at least for our list, it might not be true for every list, but the list we've been testing has been running like chaotic swell, so you don't get wrecked by labs. And it runs the Jirachi engine, so that if you do get like tandem shocked, you can switch into Jirachi and pivot off the escape board, and it runs as many switches as you can, which is 4. So it's take as hard against those particular outs as you possibly can. And so it's take specifically to beat the top 3 decks and nothing else.
Yeah.
Which
is also something I would.
Which is not a good idea. Yeah, exactly.
Which is iffy. But definitely the biggest concern for me if I was ever to play that deck is the fact that you have to sleeve up Rare Candy, and I hate that card.
Yeah, exactly. I think the fact that even with the strong matchups, because of its inconsistencies, it can easily just lose any game, especially to the pressure of altered creation and things like that. So it's not. Well, at least for me, it's not my kind of deck.
If you have to give up 1 prize against ADP before you get your Obstagoon out, then suddenly they've only got 4 prizes left and 2 sets of custom catches to get them the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
one of the things for me, like, this deck seems like a really, really good idea in concept, but then I played ADP Zacian on the ladder that just played 1 Galarian Berserker and I lost. So it's just, like, it's literally just down to that. And so if you're willing to take the risk, I feel like in a smaller field, you could potentially play this kind of deck and win, but in an international tournament, there's way too much variable to say that this is a good pick. You could easily win heaps of games with it. You could get into day 2 if you draw the right matchups and they don't have the text for it. But
you don't miss turn 2 Obstagoon and stuff like that. You hit your and you hit every attachment every turn, so that you don't miss the chance to actually declare the attack that's busted. But yeah,
I would be surprised to see it in top 8 at the very least.
Oh, I would be very surprised to see it in top 8. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it in day 2. If someone pilots it, I could see it getting there.
Maybe 1 or 2.
One last thing on it before we spend our entire night talking about the worst of these 6 decks that we're going to talk about. I was speaking with Jordan about it, and we said that if you play Obstagoon day 1, your chances of winning increase exponentially the more games you win. So you're most likely to lose at the start of the day, and then as you go on, you're more likely to win.
You're more likely to submarine because you fight like Rillaboom box on like your first game, and you're like, oh crap, Rillaboom just sweeps the whole deck. You're like, all right, cool, let's go to the next round, and then like the next round,
you might be able to sneak out.
Oh, cool, I managed to jag an ADP. We're in there.
We're going for it.
Hopefully, you get yourself into the winners bracket somehow and find the top tier decks again.
But hey, anyway, let's take a look at another list that has seen a little bit of hype. That's Baby Blacephalon. Again, probably not one of the top tier decks, but this one at least has a little bit more going for it than Obstagoon does.
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, thanks for bringing.
I think there's like a top 5, and then like Obstagoon's like.
I just wanted to talk about Obstagoon, right? I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's worth an honourable mention for sure.
Yeah.
So Blake, I know you've tested a lot of Baby Blacephalon, so do you want to start us off talking about this one?
Yeah, it was actually like my top pick for a long time, and then like the more I looked at, like I really like it against like all the tag team matchups. Like we found a good build that was strong against most of the other meta decks. But then Stall started popping up and creeping up into people's testing, and this deck has no good answer to Stall. It just like I can't find a conceivable way, even with like Fiona and Cramorant to snipe stuff. Like a Mew and like enough Pokédolls down covers that strategy really easily, and you just like the deck draws so hard that you're eventually just going to get milled or run out of resources because it's a deck that does that.
Yeah.
But the other problem is that even against the tag team decks that I like playing against, it's still not like very much in your favor. It might be like 55-45 or 60-40 in the best cases, and probably only against 2 out of the top 3 decks aside from Stall. ADP is like pretty even because it's just whoever takes the first knockout if they get their GX attack off first. And if they can string together all their attackers and they Ultimate Ray before you take 3 prizes with Fireball Circus, then they're going to win that game every time, which is unfortunate. And then after all that testing, I took a step back and I looked at like the tier list that Todd posted a while ago, and I was looking. I was like, okay, how do I feel about Blacephalon against this, against this, against this? And I was like, I only feel like really confident against like 2 of these decks that are up in the top level, and not against much else. And that's not really good enough. And the deck does get what everyone knows about is Blacephalon hands, which is
it just happens
you
sometimes.
you just get a bunch of fire energy and nothing else, and then you don't start Quick Ball or Jirachi, and then the game ends because you don't draw cards.
Yeah,
which is really bad.
it is pretty bad.
I think the deck's okay. I think we have a lot of these decks which I don't really like personally. The format's really shaped up weird, and we'll see it at the end, but everything kind of has different strengths and weaknesses, in a way. And the decks are all very different, and so I think you can't really counter one without losing to the other, and Baby Blacephalon is kind of one of those decks that gatekeeps a lot of things. Like, just straight tag team decks, I can see really struggling with it. But the deck itself kind of struggles with a lot of things as well. As Blake said, like, Alter Creation's a big issue if you don't respond immediately, and also even just, if they play a modifier like... So if you're playing Jirachi and Baby Blacephalon and they play Fine Band or Zigzagoon, they can take knockouts on your Jirachi with their Jirachi because they now have Metal Patch.
Yeah, they can just sneak it in there.
So they can easily just like prize
Just
race
a casual little slap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just slap their Jirachis. Like, it's realistically.
Or in some of the ADP lists, they're playing like the Zapdos, right? So the Fine Band on that. Also
Fine Band Zapdos. I just want to quickly check Fiona. I think it does 20 damage, but if it does 30, then Fiona also one-shots.
Which would be concerning.
It does 10.
It does 10.
Anyway, but you get my gist with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They can easily have a lot of things that do it. Even Absol, like if they attack the Absol or something.
Yeah, what are you going to do with that? Yeah, it's kind of a really awkward one because, like you mentioned, Blake, I feel like it was in a much stronger position until Cinccino stall became a really big thing. Like if it
even
was
just Makago stall was enough of a hurdle for it, and then a better version came out.
Exactly. So if it's just like those 3 big tag team decks, you could consider it because okay, well I'm just going to Fireball Circus. I'm going to go faster than everyone else, and I'm going to hope that against ADP Zacian I'm able to get my attacks off sooner. But now you've got this extra dimension that you have to deal with. It's just gonna. I feel like it's going to be just that little bit too hard for Blacephalon to come out on top. But again, wouldn't be surprised to see some success on day 1 of Melbourne. Probably quite a bit more than Obstagoon, I'd say.
You definitely. I think also Absol is also a really dangerous tech for the deck if you're playing Jirachi.
Yeah.
Like Absol just
the most popular builds are playing Jirachi in my experience as well. Which is really hard. I could see like one Baby Blacephalon going deep into the tournament because it's so strong against 3 of like the top 4 decks. But I don't see very many making it because it's so easy to just hit like 1 or 2 stall in a day and then your tournament's over.
Yeah.
But like it's really annoying because out of all the decks I've tested so far, Baby Blacephalon, when it's going, feels like the best deck because literally like, you get knocked out, Lucky Egg procs, you draw 3 cards, and it's like, cool, Promote Jirachi, Dance of Tribute, draw 3, Heat Factory, draw 3, and then Jirachi, you Stellar Wish, and then like, cool, I'm holding like half my deck in my hand, and I haven't crystalled yet, and then you literally like throw like 8 fire energy on the table, and you're like, later.
I just win.
And then you take 3 prizes, and it's like, how is this not the best deck? What's wrong? What's wrong with this game right now when that's not the best deck? It's so ridiculous.
The fact that you can do that, like have all of those resources and still not be able to say, I win every game, that's a big problem.
And one last thing as well is I can see it kind of struggling against Mewtwo Malamar.
Oh yeah.
In 2 ways, either because they can Marnie Trevmire you, or also they can just get 1 Giratina and just loop it for 6 turns. Like.
Yeah, Jordan's definitely instilled the fear into me because it was like, if it's a good MewMew Malamar list and it's playing just 1 Giratina, you instantly lose because Giratina has been the gatekeeper for Baby Blacephalon as long as
the entire time the deck's been around. But hey, again,
terrifying.
Wouldn't be surprised to see it there. The next 4 are probably the ones that you're expecting, but hang around because, Henry's here and he's going to tell us about them. We have MewMew Malamar as one of those big decks that we think is going to happen. Now, for me personally, I feel like this is the type of deck that has the most tricks. There's like a lot of things this deck can do, and a good player playing a Mewtwo Mew deck, Henry, I'm sure you'll agree, is probably going to be able to win the tournament.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. However, this Mewtwo Mew deck has a squid in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's contrasting your beliefs.
It's like, on one hand, it is so good, and then it's also got Malamar.
I don't like squids. I don't know, man. Like, I think the deck's really strong. Obviously, it's with draw as well. It's really strong. But I've just played at how many games with it where I'm just like, okay, cool. So I can't play the game.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, okay, well,
it's Malamar at the end of the day. I feel like the deck doesn't work with the Jirachi engine. I also feel that fundamentally Marnie's a bad supporter.
Okay.
Really?
It's a hot take.
In terms
Hot
of
take.
consistency, is a bad supporter.
Yeah, no, fair
I
enough.
also think in terms of disruption, it's technically a bad supporter. Obviously, when paired with Trevnar, it's a tiny bit better, but it's still a fairly flimsy game plan. Being able to Horror House while you set up is quite good. Having all these tricks is really strong as well, obviously, and having the energy acceleration to constantly do it. But just in general, it feels very, very flimsy to me, and I don't like decks where you feel like you really need to reach for pieces every turn.
Yeah,
I feel like it's
fair
really
enough.
one of those. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I agree. I definitely agree with the comments on the core gameplay. But I think like the deck's got so many tricks that you don't often go into autopilot where you just go Marnie Night Watch every turn.
No, I don't think you do
Yeah. It's obviously like it's annoying, but like Zacian's in like half of the good decks right now, so it's like, okay, cool. I'll take a bad turn. I'll just Intrepid Sword, fill my hand up. Like I'll just have one bad turn. Like they're not gonna be able to punish me too much. But like most of the good decks can get out of it pretty easily. But there's so many like. It's definitely the most flexible deck, I think, because like
Psychic, it's playing Mewtwo, like it's obviously going to be
Psychic
flexible.
Psychic plus Aurora just gives you the access to like the most different GX and like cool tech attackers in the format, and it also has like the crutch of having like Giratina Loop if all else fails, which has always been really, really strong.
Yeah.
That's fair. And like one of the good things about Mewtwo, obviously, like you said, is you can have all those extra tech attackers. You can make it so that, okay, I'm just not going to lose to this specific type of deck today. I'm just going to make sure that matchup, whether it's, I don't know, Mill or Obstagoon or PikaRom or whatever you want it to be, I'm just going to make sure that matchup gets freed up. And as long as I set up, and that's the critical thing for Mewtwo Malamar, as long as I set up, I should be able to win. And you just have to hope that your opponent doesn't get there before you do.
Yeah.
So this is one that I'm personally really heavily testing at the moment. I think it's probably in my top 2 decks, but again, like we said, that's the probably thing that is holding it back. This deck is the exact opposite. PikaRom doesn't have any problems with consistency. It pretty much does everything that it wants to do every game, but maybe it's a little bit too linear. I don't know.
My thing with PikaRom is that obviously it's fairly consistent, and getting turn 1 full blitz is pretty consistent, I would say. But even when I say that, I think it's only in the 80% range. And honestly, that's not high enough for a deck that, in my opinion, completely loses if it doesn't full blitz on turn 1.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like if you go second and you full blitz on your turn 2, you can't win.
Yeah, you're
like,
so far behind.
Any deck. Like, you are so far behind, and it just doesn't feel powerful enough. Like, that's the other thing as well. Like, if you're playing as tag team decks and you full blitz a tag team rather than a Jirachi. You full blitz the tag team, you put your energy to right you. If they heal that damage off of the full blitz, you're only ever taking one knockout, like one shot. Which is really difficult, I feel, and I feel like you just get outpaced and outdamaged by a lot of things. I think that's the general consensus, that it's fast and it's consistent, but it doesn't feel powerful enough.
Yeah, but is it good enough? Yeah.
I could see it doing quite well at the IC simply because it's the kind of deck that will punish poorly built decks.
Yeah.
And people that don't know what they're doing, at least at this stage of the meta. But I think I can't see it holding up too well for too long. But I could be wrong about that because it's.
I would be shocked if PikaRom ends up winning the tournament. I'll say that much right now. Like knock on wood.
Yeah, we'll watch this clip back, Blake, after it wins.
Yeah, exactly. In my testing with PikaRom, I don't know if it's one of those decks that like I just have no luck with, but whenever I test the deck, I'm like, I don't see what everyone's talking about. I brick with this as much as I brick with any other deck in the format. Like, it's got more outs, obviously, with like Quick Ball and Radars and stuff like that to get the Denes, but I'm just so good at drawing jank hands with PikaRom. It's ridiculous. And even when I'm on fire and I'm hitting everything, like, I've tested so much against Jordan with like ADP and stuff like that, and I'll hit the nuts, I'll get turn 2 full blitz, I'll play my turns perfectly, like one shot on ADP, and then like kill a Zacian. I'm like, alright, cool. I'm going to stamp Jordan to 2, and hopefully he doesn't hit his win con next turn. Yeah. And if he hits it, the game's over. And I feel like and Jordan agrees with me, like, all of PikaRom's games end with, I'm going to stamp you, please don't beat me.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like the deck. I hate going, I really hope you don't get super lucky off the stamp to 1 or 2 and draw your win con. Otherwise I'm going to be very upset. And it happens all the time.
Stamp is even less reliable nowadays as well because you have Professor's Research. So your decks get thinned out, and also it's just such a stronger card to draw off the stamp as well. So I agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward one, but like PikaRom, I think will probably be, if not like the most represented deck, then it will be in the top 2 most played decks day one, just because it is definitely one of those decks that, okay, I can pick this up. I've already played PikaRom for 3, 6, however many months. I know how this deck works. It's gotten more consistent with these new cards that have come out, and I think that it's probably going to be good enough to get me through 9 rounds of Pokemon. So people will definitely play it. So if you go in being like, oh, no one's going to play PikaRom, that's a stupid thing to say. But I agree that it's probably not got enough going for it to kind of go, okay, well, this is the deck to play. It's probably like I don't want to say that's a tier 1.5 deck, but it kind of feels like that at the moment, just because it's obviously really, really strong, but I don't think it's strong enough.
I don't think it's strong as the other. I don't think it's as strong as any of the other top 3 decks, in my opinion. I feel like it's definitely going to be either the first or second most popular deck, because people, it's like, this literally got released last year at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it came out and people were playing it, and it was like the second or third most popular on release. And most of those people and people now will still have their PikaRoms. It's so easy to build. It got like 1 new card in like half a year.
And it's a staple that everyone's going to play.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just like a reg RV that was super easy to pull with you went to pre-release or
exactly. Just rip out one.
You open one box. It's like, cool, I'm ready to play like a new format deck. No worries. The Tapu Koko V is a really nice addition. It gives like a lot of options, and it does make it gives you another lead other than Jirachi that makes full blitzing turn 2 easier with the free retreat. And its first attack is pretty good for a little bit of added consistency. It's good to like pop dolls as well.
Yeah,
it's cute that way.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's one of those ones where it's probably going to be an issue. Also, I never thought I'd say this, but like, is it just me, or is 240 not enough HP? Like, no. I need more than 240 HP. It's so low. Oh, but
it's the exact right amount for an ADP boosted Zacian to one-shot you, so...
Well, apart from the resistance, but but you're on, like 240
well, no,
is just not enough.
It's 260.
Oh, 260 with the ADP boost, no, that's
with the ADP, yeah.
Anyway, well, let's talk about that one, ADP Zacian. This is what I think is probably the strongest deck going forward. I would be very surprised if this deck didn't do well. I've seen multiple different variants of it. I think that it's got a lot going for it. I would not be surprised if I played it. I wouldn't be surprised if Blake played it. I wouldn't be surprised if lots of people played it, and I wouldn't be surprised if won the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly strong. Zacian is probably the strongest card Pokemon has ever printed in their lifetime, and I think ADP is really good. Obviously, with the deck, I think it's better because it lets... Sorry, cut you off, Blake. I think it lets you prize race a lot more efficiently, and I think it lets Zacian hit like a truck. Patch has always been a really broken energy acceleration, and I think it's the kind of deck that maybe while it's a little bit less consistent than, say, something like PikaRom, Zacian's ability inherently lets you kind of get over that, and also with Metal Patch, if you draw the nuts, you're going to win every single game. So it's broken.
It's really funny, because if you've been playing for a decent amount of time, it's got, like, this card, like, theoretically, if you're thinking about all the abilities that are attached to it, should be like a $200 card for a regular, because it's got, like, Beach stapled to its ability, and then it's got, like, access to Dark Patch, which Darkrai had back in its day, which was, like, a $50 card in release, and then it has Brave Blade, which is, like, a ridiculous nuke that pretty much every expensive card ever printed has been, like, super expensive.
It has Flare Strike, it has Beach, and it has Patch.
And it's a basic with 220 HP. That's worth 2 prizes. It's just a stupid.
The card's so good. It gets played in decks that don't play Metal Energy. That's how good that card is. It's an insane card, and if like that card wasn't insane, ADP is an insane card that's just been dying for an actual good partner for so long. It's been so strong that crappy partners like Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos have been good decks just because
because the ability's so good, the Altered Creation's so good.
It's so, like, Keldeo, like, a pretty middling, it's like, oh, plus 30, now it one-shots a Rescuzard, super relevant, 4 prizes, awesome, what a good card. Oh my god, and now it boosts the damage of an already busted card, and it makes it take more prize cards. This, like, if you GX with this card, then all you have to do is play, like, a custom catcher, like 2 custom catchers and a great catcher, and kill 2 Dedenes and the game's over. And even if they kill it, it's like, oh, cool, metal patch attach, or metal patch attach, energy switch. It's so busted. You can play it two ways, both of which are really strong. One lends itself to more tech attackers and like a slower paced build in Guzmahala with like the Aurora energy. And then there's like the clay build, which is like super quick, burning through the resources. Just give me that turn one going second altered creation with like metal patch, E-switch, water energy. Let's go. But either way you play it, this deck is super strong, and if it didn't make top 8 at all, like
that would be ridiculous.
I might eat a sock. Like,
all right, okay, we've got ourselves a statement. Henry, you got to hold him to that. He's got to eat a sock.
I'm gonna get a steak knife and a fork, and I'm just gonna put it on a plate and record it, and I'll just eat
a sock.
Just eat a sock. It's just that good a deck.
Give us your thoughts, Henry. Blake's gone off on a 5-minute rant there about how good it is.
I mean, I gave mine. It's very good. It's just an inherently powerful deck, and I think we've seen. It's like I say this all the time. I don't think we've seen a more inherently powerful deck recently. Every time a new set comes out, I say this, but
yeah,
very inherently powerful. I think even just being able to alter creation for 1 energy is really strong. Then you also, if you play energy switch in the deck, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you can turn 1 alter creation in some situations, which is just nuts. Intrepid Sword covers a lot of bad starts. I don't see how the deck's not doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, I missed turn 1 alter creation. This deck's crap. Guess I'll just draw 3 cards and maybe attach some extra metal energies.
Yeah,
because
the only worst thing about the deck I would say is the mirror seems terrible. I think if you go first.
Oh yeah.
So,
that's a very
it's so explosive. It's like
whoever alter creations wins. Yeah.
They gusted my Zacian and killed it before it could attack. That's a big L there.
Yeah, it's all over.
And they took 3 prizes. Now they just gotta kill the Dene or something and win. So
yep.
Yeah, well, let's get the next one. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's it's one of those.
First this time.
With this deck, I wouldn't be upset if I played anything apart from itself. That's the only thing that I wouldn't want to play. But
it's definitely explosive mirror.
But one of the other most powerful decks, so like ADP Zacian is obviously one of the strongest. We've seen Shinchino Mill come out of the woodwork over the last few weeks. Everyone has been hyping this card up, especially after Tord's tier list where it was up the top. I don't know whether there were too many people who were really talking about this a lot. I know the Magcargo Mill list was floating around, but Shinchino has suddenly come to the forefront after Tord's list. And this deck is also incredibly good, and it makes those kind of big explosive decks, it really punishes them for the fact that they draw so many cards so quickly.
This is another one of those decks where I feel like the format is really difficult to figure out, at least in this blind meta, because you pick one thing that beats the others, you lose to Chinchino Mill. You pick something that beats that, you lose to Baby Blends. I feel like you go in a big circle. Chinchino Mill is very, very strong, and it really gatekeeps a lot of the ways decks have to be built, but I think it can be quite easily countered, at least by Mewtwo decks, which can just play Stinger and Baby Blacephalon and cannot lose the matchup.
Sorry, Jordan. I tried not to say it on the channel, but I promised Jordan I wouldn't tell him about the spice, but...
Jordan's He's got this weird perception that he's got these secret ideas that no one else knows about. Everyone's like, everyone's playing it. Come on, man.
Forever. Anyway, so I think, but at the same time, I feel like the deck is somewhat inconsistent, and it can easily just lose to things like ADP Zacian if you don't draw enough dolls.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's definitely the
hardest. Or if you only draw
matchup.
1 doll and they've got Fiona, like that kind of thing. Like that's the difficult thing. And I don't like the deck, especially because it's just like. It just feels very awkward. It's not my kind of deck at the very least, and I don't like how oppressive it is. It feels very uninteractive. It's not a control deck, so it's very difficult. Well, I mean, it is. I wouldn't classify it as control. I would just say mill.
Yeah.
I don't like.
It plays crushings, and that's as close as you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go off a tangent here, but I feel like control is a starkly different archetype. Not only to like Pidgeotto, I feel like Pidgeotto is more of a lock deck than control. But this isn't even lock. This is mill, so. I think it's so aggressive that it's like really dodgy, and I feel like you can only lose to something just as aggressive, except then obviously in a damage manner rather than racing for deck out. But
it's definitely its worst matchup is ADP Zacian. This is something that I've been testing a lot. It's one of my 2 decks going into the tournament that I'm probably most likely to bring. I tested it a lot today. I beat ADP Zacian a couple times. It's a lot easier to beat the clay variant because that one, it's very hard for them to conserve resources. Because unless they draw the nuts, they have to play one of their two aggressive mill supporters, Sycamore and Clay, which both mill through 7 cards, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's so many low counts of resources that if Belelba hits, I can get rid of all their water energy, and then I can Belelba away the Ordinary Rod, and suddenly they can't attack with Ultimate Ray anymore, and they have to cycle Brave Blades. And then they're just on a path to defeat from there because they're eventually just going to run out of resources and deck out. It's definitely harder against Guzma Hala because they take it slow, but the deck is super strong. There's definitely techs that can if you want to beat this deck, you can beat this deck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the kind of list it is. But it really just depends how confident people are on how much it's going to see play. And how good the people playing it are actually going to be. Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It kind of feels like Cinccino Mill's being hyped up a lot. I think it was Brazil IC when Pidgeotto control was everywhere, and everyone was like, this deck is the best deck in the format. Everyone has to be wary of it. It's going to win everything. It's going to be everywhere. And then it just didn't do anything because everyone was ready for it. So they just went, I've got this one card tech that's going to beat this matchup. Cinccino feels kind of the same in that everyone's hyping it up, so there's going to be a lot of people that are ready for it, so it probably won't do too well. But in saying that, it's still definitely able to win those games because it is aggressively removing cards from the deck as opposed to trying to control stuff. So there's
if it's a Pokemon base, if it's a Pokemon based tech, you can easily just mill it and the Ordinary Rod, and then suddenly they don't win that matchup anymore. I definitely think this is a designated attack by Todd to make sure this deck doesn't do as well as it can, because I think if you know that this deck exists, you don't put it in tier 1 unless you don't intend to play it, because it suddenly puts it on everyone's radar and everyone's like, we have to test this, we have to figure out how to beat it.
Well, to be fair to Todd, it was already on everyone's radar before the tier list. I don't know if you guys had known about it, but it was already well on the radar. Everyone knew about it, everyone was testing it, so it's really nothing too big of a surprise. But yeah,
it's just one of those. It's one of those decks that when you know that it exists and you've got that tech for it, you can definitely get there. But it's still going to be around, and we'll see it on day 2. It'll rock up. But whether it wins the tournament or not is another question. Yeah. So that's it. We've got some summing up. I think we've come to a pretty reasonable conclusion that Zacian V is a good card. I think that's the consensus from this video.
Yeah, there's 3 of them mill. That's a good.
Exactly. They play in Baby Blacephalon as well.
Yep.
It's fine.
Drawing 3 is just good at the end of your first turn when you got nothing better to do.
Yep, exactly. It seems pretty strong. I'm not going to ask Henry what he's planning on playing. I want him to keep that to himself, because unlike you and I, Blake, he's a good player, and we are not. So I won't ask him. Me personally, I'm probably going to take Mewtwo Mally, because I think that deck, even though it does have struggles setting up, is the only deck that I feel comfortable. Okay, I'm going to be able to beat whatever comes at me if everything works out. How are you feeling, Blake?
I'm pretty torn at the moment. The only thing that's stopping me from not bringing Mill to this tournament is this deck auto loses to 2 of the worst decks that could possibly show up in the field. Rillaboom Vox absolutely annihilates this deck because Venus Snivy just Shining Vines every turn, and you just can't beat it. And it's really funny, but also really sad because that deck overall is really weak. But it's such a cool deck that people will play it because I love Rillaboom. He was my starter. I'm gonna play a deck based on him. This deck it's the best way to play it. I'm gonna lose to that deck. Or people who can't let go of the past will play Ability Zard, and I'm gonna get gusted by Ninetales every turn of the game, and I'm gonna be really, really sad.
Yeah, fair enough.
Otherwise I'd definitely bring Mill. But if I can man up and get over that, I'll bring that. Otherwise, I'm gonna play ADP Zacian, the clay build, because the deck's super fast and I feel like it could just beat anything. It's kind of it reminds me of Night March in that it's so oppressively powerful that if it does what it wants, it wins most games anyway, regardless of the matchup.
Yeah, beautiful. Any closing statements, Henry, that you want to make? Obviously, don't give anything away. Don't give us the spice, mate.
I think out of those decks who have listed, I think that Mewtwo Mallow has the best matchup spread, but it's inconsistent and that scares me. If I was to pick a deck, I would probably, out of these, I would probably play ADP Zacian.
Fair enough. I can't believe no one went for Obstagoon. I tried my very best. That's
Shocker.
Unbelievable. But hey, thanks very much, Henry, for coming along for this one. It's always good to hear your input, and thanks to Blake for consistently showing up. It's always good to have you around as well. And thanks for the viewers as well. You're the people that actually watch the thing. The reason we keep doing it. If you like the content, then consider subscribing. There'll be a little button somewhere on the screen that you can click to do that. There'll also be a couple of videos that you might like to check out before you head to Melbourne for OCIC, as well as a playlist with all of our Sword and Shield testing. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @thesabilize_YT. And apart from that, we'll see you all in Melbourne next weekend. And yeah, enjoy your testing. We'll see you then. Bye. Good hand waving, guys.